Hello, welcome to a very spooky Write Once, Read Many about Arc 26. Sting. Alright. Got that link out there in Discord, so hopefully people will arrive soon to hear the spooky noises go on. Ooh. Alright, it will be perhaps a spooky solo event with no chat. Ooh. We shall see. Alright, the speed draw is still going, but, you know, for the recording, the audience participation reminder is 26.1. Make up a new Slaughterhouse 9 member to wreak havoc on Killington. So, feel free to do that in the comments. Or whatever. And then, let's see here. As far as themes, you know, all your classic themes, like the horrific atrocities done by the Slaughterhouse 9 are basically just a huge escalation on the, you know, the low-key, cruelty and bullying and power dynamic stuff that's been going on through the whole story, just taken to, they turn the dial up to 9,000, perhaps? But, yeah. It's kind of an extension of that, and the, like, I guess the danger level of stuff. Again, like the escalation theme on kind of all fronts, but it's a very grim chapter. That we can be certain of that. This image is, of course, the chapter art is from the end of the chapter where Golem and Weaver are talking to each other, and Golem's explaining himself that he needs to mourn the people who were killed here because he's concerned that no one else from the hero group is going to do that, and that it needs to be sort of kept in mind by their side. So yeah, we got the one image that's not of some atrocity, but if you turn the camera like 10 degrees in any direction, you'd probably see one. Yeah, anyway, themes over. I'm gonna swap to the chapter summary. This one's a pretty long one. The audiobook is almost an hour long for it. They are at this town of Killington that has been attacked by the Slaughterhouse 9, and there are all sorts of awful smells. Like, it starts off talking about the smell to sort of set the mood, and Taylor compares it to the smell of Brockton Bay after the Leviathan attack when the Slaughterhouse 9 were operating there, and everything was terrible. Let's see here. All of the bodies that they're coming across have numbers on them. They've been clearly killed by specific members of the Slaughterhouse 9, and like one each. And because there are 9 copies of the majority of the members, with 3 exceptions, then there are 9 of each type of kill. Now let's see here. So, yeah, it says, welcome to Killington, heart of the Green Mountains. And I agree that Jack probably thought it was funny that they went to Killington and killed everybody. It is, you know, there's a joke in there. Let's see here. So, 3 of the Red Hands are there, Cozen, Getaway, and Rifle, and they are, like, considerably more spooked than the Undersiders, and Cozen's first comment is that she goes, "They got the children, too," which, the Slaughterhouse 9 do that. They do torture, murder children as well as adults. As they are making their way in, seeing all these bodies, like, Taylor's very large-scale scouting ability is allowing her to understand the pattern of what's going on here. There's kind of, they're passing, like, they're going over a spiral, but it's such a large-scale spiral that it's hard to tell from the ground what is happening, and they have set up, like, some sort of air defense that shot down an emergency medical chopper that was sent out there, and using, like, pyrotechnicals technology from the stuff they had stolen in the Toy Box group, because, they had access to all that leftover stuff. So Taylor's, like, realizing that if she hadn't been here for the large-scale sensing, then it might have taken them a while to find the pattern is a spiral, because there's so many traps, too. They can't really navigate well through this, so Taylor's playing it super safe. There's sort of a conflict where Cozen can tell that Taylor doesn't want her to be there, but Taylor's not saying anything at first. Revel calls in and asks, "Weaver, report." And Weaver does tell her what's going on. She reports about all the traps and stuff, and the Chicago wards and some protectorate people are all like showing up. It's clear they're all on the same page about the helicopter being shot down, etc. And they're being super careful of all the traps and stuff. Imp is very happy, being as cautious as possible. Rachel is, like, at first saying that being too careful gets you killed, and then Imp kind of shames her, just going, "You want to hop on your dog's back and charge ahead? Go activate every trap between here and wherever." And Rachel doesn't, like, get angry and fight back. She just acknowledges, no, that's not a good plan. And then when Taylor's pointing out some of the traps, like, Gru is unable to, like, he's unclear on what the pressure plate on one of the traps would be, and Taylor's just, like, kind of explains through some of the possibilities and is like, we kind of just can't know. Well, she thinks through some of the possibilities in her head, but what she says is, let's play it safe. Avoid the tripwires, avoid the glass. And so then she kind of has a reminder to the audience style flashback, but also she's thinking about it because unlike some people who are a little too unfair to Taylor, she does think about other people's emotions. And she's thinking about Gru and when he was captured by the Slaughterhouse Nine and how he must be feeling now and is worried about him, etc. And then they're seeing tons of different stuff. There's when they find the bodies numbered 1 through 9, Taylor realizes that the individually numbered bodies are probably specific to each group of the same clones, like the first 9 all being for King. And the description of what King did to the people is ugh. As are a lot of these descriptions. So this is like this whole arc is gonna have a lot of moments of kind of like ugh. But like when I'm watching a good horror movie, it's worth getting through a moment of ugh for everything to sort of land correctly. Oh, I've just spotted a typo I didn't notice before. Missing quotation mark. Anyway, this is when they've got like confirmation on the clones. They sort of are realizing what's happening, and while that's happening, a bunch of breed bugs move and exit a body. At first they think it might be someone who's alive, and then when Taylor says like we just need to leave him behind, then Rifle, we don't know much about Rifle, but Rifle's only response is, that's fucked up. We could at least put him out of his misery then. And she's just like, could be a trap. I'm not going over there. I'm not going to let you go over there. So that's when they see the breed bugs come out. And Taylor explains what they do. And everyone is horrified and doesn't like it. And this is when Taylor's like, if you guys are too uncomfortable to be here now, you're just gonna need to leave because things are gonna get worse. I mean, she's pretty much right. And this is when we learn that there's probably 29 different capes that got copied. Probably. Hard to say. Taylor says they don't have the offensive powers to take down Breed's creatures. And I get what she's saying, and I get that she's just trying to move things along. But they do have foil there. Like, one of the ultimate offensive capes of all time. Like, she can throw stones at things and have them, like, get dead. So, anyway, Taylor cannot control the breed bugs with her mind, which is probably good for everybody. I had thought to myself as like a bad thing that might happen is if she could control them with her mind, what if they molted and became like an even more dangerous thing, and then she could no longer contain them when they suddenly had like the acid spit shotgun weapons? And it's like, that seems pretty bad if they were suddenly turned against you at a critical moment. So I think it's fine. Taylor tells them to trust their instincts to leave. Cozen gets all offended. And she's like, don't change the subject. You want us gone. No, all the help we can get is appreciated. At the same time, if push comes to shove and you can't hold it together, it's going to hurt us all. And Taylor's telling them that she trusts the Undersiders directly, and she trusts the Red Hands because they're being they're the Undersiders have basically vouched for them. Then the imp says she's spooked. Cozen gets all mad. I think it's implied that people can hear imp, but they're kind of not responding to her. I think she's like medium using her power so that like they get the vague inkling she's talking, but they don't address it like she's talking. Yeah, there's like a little leadership fight here when Cozen says, "You're talking like you're in charge. Gru leads the Undersiders." And then she's like, "I'm not an Undersider. It doesn't matter. I'm in charge anyway." I thought that was so good. Like, she just... Nope. I love Taylor. And then Taylor explains that, well, Gru is a good leader of the Undersiders. Like, she's been working toward this for 2 years and all that. And then after one more questioning from Cozen, Gru backs her up and says, "My orders are to follow her orders." And boop, 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 boop. Cozen even goes as far as to say that they don't have to follow the Undersiders' orders, but that they will anyway, for now. While they're on unfamiliar ground. And then both Gru and Weaver say thank you at the same time. And then Taylor in her little petty smirk, she turns away because she's worried that they'll be able to see it through the fabric on her mask. I love whenever Taylor gets off a good petty smirk. So it's taking them a while to get there, and they are like, sometimes there's big gaps between the spiral portions and the where the bodies are and whatever. But it's slow going because they're having to look for traps the whole time. Sometimes they have to take big detours. They see Protectorate members, Chevalier, Exalt, and some. It just says and others. Taylor gets their attention and then leaves them bug directions by killing large masses of bugs and then having other bugs mash them into the ground to create footprints and stuff they can walk on. I really like this detail. Follow the bug brick road, I guess. And then, they're following this to the center of the spiral, which leads to a plaza. Let's see here. Revel is asking for sort of thoughts on the updating situation, and Taylor explains what I said earlier about how they had the air defenses so that they'd have to come in by land and that they'd have to see all the terrible atrocities. It says, and how Jack does a lot of the things he does. Well, it says everything Jack does is for effect. It's not everything. Some things are just for murder. But the majority of things he does are for effect, and they psychologically affect different people in different ways. But it's going to this scene is going to negatively impact pretty much anyone who comes upon it, even if they don't react in identical ways. But she sort of talks Revel through all that, and they have to climb over a heap of bodies, which is just great. Let's see here. They describe the plaza as being like courthouse steps. You can sort of see the stone columns Victoria and I were not really sure if this plaza was like an indoor plaza or an outdoor plaza or what, and decided it's more likely that it's outdoors. And I think the stone columns are to represent the courthouse steps nature. But it's all very vague with how this actually looks. And then there's Taylor does not notice it, but it says right in the text that there were 2 objects covered in tarps and a man reclining at the far end of the stairs. So a dude just there. It doesn't say like a dead body, because it keeps saying like bodies and etc. So there's also 10 dead bodies arrayed in a star shape, limbs bent to mark the direction of the spiral. So, you know, just a regular man sitting there. Nothing to worry about. No trouble with a live dude in the middle of all these bodies. Taylor bug checks under the tarps. She thinks around telling us what's under one of the tarps, but let's see here. She checks in with so the wards team has shown up, and Taylor's directed them to have Golem create hands of material they can walk on safely. So it's Grace, Tect, and Wanton and Cuff are hanging back with Golem going toward them. And, you know, Chevalier is checking in and meeting up with the other wards. But Taylor asks how his headspace is, and they sort of have a back and forth. He's not doing good, but he's going to stay in and be part of the fight and everything. There's a screaming coming from under the tarp, and we're not told what it is, but when Taylor's asked what it is, she says, "A recording." I lied. Then I elaborated. And then she says, it seems like she's elaborating on her lie, that there's the 2 tarps and 1 tarp is trapped. And so she says, "Trust me," I said, even as I lied for everyone's benefit. And so, yeah, Rachel and Golem move the other tarp that she doesn't think is a trap, and it's got a television. And so the guy who was there at the steps says, "The tape's already in the machine. You can hit play to start it," the man sitting at the edge of the stairs said. And then over the comms, "Wait, Weaver, stop! Who was that?" Who? What do you mean?" "Look to your right." And then she looks, and she sees the tarp, corpses, the man who is standing at the edge of the stairs, the crenellations at the top of the stairs, cabins, restaurants, and she goes, "Not sure I get what you're saying." Gru's is confused too. Taylor's saying that she's getting communications from Revel, and Revel's acting weird. And then the man comes over and he's like, "Here, let me get that for you." And then they step aside from the TV, and he hits the play button. Or he reaches for the play button, and she grabs his hand instead. Revel says he's dangerous, and is trying to get her to attack him, but she's really confused. He says, well, basically everyone there can't tell who's there, and Revel's saying to attack him, and she's like, "Turn to your right, look at that person, I need you to kill that person." And then she looks past, and she sees Rachel. She looks past again, the man. Then she sees Golem, and then she's like really confused, and she's like, "Yeah." So a voice in my head is telling me to kill Golem, and I really like that Revel is just like caught in a loop of not knowing exactly what to do. But then Imp, who, it doesn't say that it's Imp, but I'm pretty sure this is Imp saying, I got this. Taylor, do me a favor. Give the order to go dark. And then when Gru's power comes out, then all the confusion sort of goes away. There's enough of his power weakened that Imp stabs him and kicks him down the stairs. And then he gets kicked into the pile of acid, basically, and he's gone. And that's when his power effect wears off, and everyone realizes that this guy was a nice guy who has a stranger power that tricks people's brains into not realizing that they are his enemy. They don't even notice him, practically, but they will follow his orders and, like, do what he says. In her own internal monologue, it says, I could mark the moment he died, because the blanks in my perception began to fill in. Nice guy, I thought. I badly underestimated the severity of his power. I'd known he would be in the roster, had kept it in mind throughout, even told myself to be ready for him. And then the moment we ran into him, well, he was just another face in the crowd. The connection wasn't possible. Yeah, the crowd. He was alone, the only, like, living human out over there. And then, oh, whoops, it's Tattletale who chimes in and says to give the Gru go dark order, and then it was Imp who did the kill and says afterward that that's my shtick. But let's see here. Yeah, he probably could have killed the whole group had they not had, like, a comm system. Tattletale says, to what was he going to do? Tattletale says, probably ask you all to stand there and stay still while he murdered each of you in turn. Which, yeah, pretty bad. It's spooky stuff. It's, like, ominous how close one cape came to killing all of them, and, you know, they're fighting, like, around 290 of these guys. You know, 8 more nice guys and etc. But let's see here. Taylor's impressed with Imp and thinks she got more powerful. Able to speak while using her power. Nuances. Let's see here. So they do play the video, and it's a video of Jack standing with the silhouettes of some Slaughterhouse 9, or the shadows of some Slaughterhouse 9 members around him. It's a message to Theo saying, you know, it's the call out, and Tattletale says over the comms that there's no need to wait to find Theo to play the video because he's standing right there. Apparently, not all the people in the group were aware, but Golem is Theo, as we, the audience, obviously know. And then Jack is saying that they missed the deadline. It was a game of hide and seek, and he failed to kill him in the 2 years. And then Golem is he clenches his fists and his, like, gauntlets make a creaking sound. It's clear that this is getting to him, like, almost right away. And then Jack talks about the deal and the people who would be killed, and then they sort of Jack keeps sort of rubbing this in and stuff because he just wants to he's like a sick fuck. Jack's the worst. Great book character, terrible person. Let's see here. Then, you know, Jack's thing, he explains that this is a prelude to what's going to happen. They've taken like tons and tons of hostages, and they have sort of moved to other towns and stuff. Is another like a lot of the descriptions in this are like, of course, very gruesome, very inhuman stuff, but it's like in the middle of the semicircle, lying on the ground, civilians had their hands folded behind their, or on the backs of their heads. In many cases, they'd been stacked like cordwood, many bound, others too terrified to move. Yeah. And then, he says that the people who were killed in the town were like a warm-up, and that he still has 999 hostages, I think. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but either way, it's horrible either way. So we'll sort of figure out that detail later. I don't have it in my notes or in my head, so yeah, so she's thinking about all the different Slaughterhouse 9 files she's seen recently, because she's like, oh, my eyes didn't leave the screen as I studied it for details, matching members of the files. Yeah. Jack says he's a man of his word, even though he's definitely not. He gives the deal that there's going to be a 5-day game, and they're going to have to track him down and kill him. And if no one kills Jack in 5 days, he's going to disband the Slaughterhouse 9, which at first is like confusing, but then he goes on to explain that they're all in the prime of their life. They were all made by Bonesaw, and they, when let off the chain, will just go do all the bad things that the normal Slaughterhouse 9 members would have done. But, you know, there's like 290 of them. So, it's a pretty bad time. He says they're obedient and servile because they have like the command switch that controls them, but that he would let them like completely free them, and they would just be completely autonomous. So, and he would take a vacation while the chaos ensued from all of his rogue Slaughterhouse 9 members. You know, Tattletale and Weaver are echoing some "fuck" kind of dialogue, because they're not very happy about this. It says Golem, for his part, had gone stone still, which sometimes this book is funny to me, because it'll be like a super grim scene, and they'll say something that I still find, Wildbow will say something that I still find just kind of cheeky and funny. He didn't go stock still like many characters. He went stone still. Yeah, so Jack's saying he's just going to keep leaving members of the Slaughterhouse 9 behind as he goes, so that there's people that they have to fight along the way. So Tattletale on the comms is saying that she's already like trying to track down what's going on. They've been contacting all the major players, like, you know, people from the big cauldron meeting, like the Tanda get involved in this and everything later. Like, they even bring up the idea that meteor strike at the right time would be really powerful. So who knows? They got a lot of cards up their sleeve. see here. But they also say that they are treating this like a CMERG situation because they don't know exactly what's going to happen with the end of the world scenario, but it seems like Jack might do something to a powerful cape who they can't stop or something. They're not really sure because everyone who has like future sight, their vision is so clouded with this. And I know that it's not really future sight, and I know that every power works on an individual sort of way, but you know what I mean. Anyone with any precog can't say shit about what's going to happen, other than that it will be bad. Let's see here. Chevalier approves the strike squads that they've been able to do. He's sending the Chicago and Brockton Bay teams because Taylor explicitly requests them. She wants Clockblocker to lead the Ward's team instead of Crucible for this mission. She says that they're going to cheat their way through this game to and do anything they have to win, basically, to stop Jack. And Tattletale says over the comms there's going to be a long chain of lose-lose situations. They have, tons of forces. They have Dragon, Defiant, most of the guild, the Dragon's Teeth and Azazel models. And the Dragon's Teeth, if you don't remember, they're like soldiers who are wearing gear that was created by Dragon and Defiant. And let's see here. Yeah, this is when they bring up that the Tonda are willing to help. And then Golem starts walking away, and Taylor gets worried, and she calls out to him, gives her phone over to Gru, and hurries after Golem. And then he asks her to leave him alone. She goes, "You're running?" And then he goes, I'm definitely in. I have to be, don't I? But this is a lot to take in. Jack, he talked to me about ripples, about stuff extending outward, the lives that are affected. I remember, you told me that. Right here, in this dinky little ski resort, he murdered a few hundred people just as a warm-up. How many people on the periphery of it all are affected? How many people across America, across the world, know people in Killington? Or know the people who know people in this town? You can't think about things on that scale. I have to. Jack does. And I have to understand him. If I don't pay attention to it, if I ignore it all, pursuing only the end result, the target, then I'm acting like my dad. Kind of. Either way, I lose. You care about the people who died, and you're thinking about them that way for a good reason. That's not putting you on a path to being like either of them. But that kind of consideration, letting it really sink in, it eats away at you, doesn't it? Shouldn't it? It should. There's a reason we go numb, and I get that. But I don't want to go down that road. Not so quickly. Not knowing just how easy it would be to revel in it, or to stop caring about the dead. I'm there, and I'm... What? Theo? I hear you guys talking about it, and you're right. In your element. Or you're right there in your element. This is something that you've been working on for a long time. There's almost an excitement to you, like you've been in a kind of stasis for the entire time I've known you, and only now are you really coming back to life. It's not like that. Anyway, I'll stop. This part's just so good. I didn't want to do it injustice. But he goes on to say how he knows she's good at this, and and he's been like watching her, take advantage of the system and manipulate things to like get all this accomplished, and she's doing it for good reasons, etc. But he realizes that she's actually Jack's nemesis. He's the reason that these people died, but she is the one who is like a counter to Jack, someone who can actually take him on, etc. And he says that she needs to keep planning, she needs to keep doing what she's doing, but he's not going to be useful for this. He's going to fight when it's time to fight. He's going to move when it's time to move, but he can't, he needs to be here, needs to be mourning people. And this is obviously what you're seeing is the chapter art is this scene. Yeah, she's not sure how to respond exactly once he's said, let me be useful in my own way, right here, right now. She lets him go, and she thinks in her head, it's not that I don't care, I thought, but what? I couldn't articulate my thoughts. But we need a strategist? We need a plan? Before all hell breaks loose, I thought. Developing that, coming up with answers, fighting, it's going to do a lot more good in the long run than compassion all on its own. I looked down at Nice Guy at the foot of the stairs, a fleshy mess that was slowly dissolving into the acid pile, which only spread and served as more acid to melt flesh. I realized that I was still holding my knife from the time of the brief skirmish. Then she says, as Golem had told me to do, I pushed him, the dead, the maimed, and the lost, out of my mind and turned back to the core group to offer my services to coordinate and administrate. End of chapter. Really strong start. This arc and arc 16 are the two longest arcs. I think they both have like 10 hours of audiobook. I don't know exact word counts to know which one's longer, but 10 hours is a pretty long arc. Strong start. We're just gonna get like tons of gruesome scenes from here. I imagine if people got through the first Slaughterhouse 9 stuff, they would get through this, but I could definitely see an audience member like category where it's like a readership where they don't like horror and they're just warned like kind of skip arcs 11 through 14 and also 26. Because I was once leading someone through the book in a manner to that. I would just tell them all the chapters to skip. And I would kind of give them a very vague outline of the kinds of things that happened. Because they would, of course, get referred back to in later chapters. But I think that person dropped off around arc 15 anyway. So... anyway, they never made it as far as arc 26. Chapter thoughts. It's interesting contrasting the Red Hands with the Undersiders, given that, like, I kind of get the impression the Red Hands are either even older teenagers, or, like, just fully in their 20s adults, and they're not able to like deal with this when they have Imp along, who's only like 16 and stuff. But this is the real horror show. No one should be subjected to this shit. So probably best that they had stayed home to begin with. But what are you gonna do? As for arc stuff, I said, like the other opening arc chapters, this sets the tone for what's to come. It's going to be a variety of differently toned horror vignettes for the whole arc. I guess there's the Saint chapter, the interlude, and that's less horror. It's still horror-ish. He's on screens looking between different battlefields and stuff, so you're still seeing awful stuff happen to people. I'll talk more arc stuff when there's more arc that's been done. I guess the name of the arc is Sting. Famous Hobbit sword Sting. I know that it's an elven sword that happened to be wielded by a couple hobbits over the years, but it's more fun to call it a hobbit sword. Sting obviously represents the sort of like awful end of the bug-like metaphors. They're getting stung, perhaps poisoned. They're not really able to put up a mental defense against this, some of them. I don't know. I'm sure that there's tons of things that that could sort of apply. It feels very applicable, even though I'm not articulating well why I think it is. But, good arc name. As far as the characters, this character, or the character sections of these are going to start getting wild, because these are like all-star casts. They're like mixing and matching in almost everybody we know. I almost made a question about, like, are there characters who didn't make it to this that you wish would have been part of the, like, anti-Slaughterhouse 9 effort? But, like, almost all of them just have direct reasons why they didn't come. Like, anyone in the birdcage, they wouldn't allow them to leave the birdcage. Easy peasy. They literally don't want, like, Eidolon there. Like, easy peasy. There's yeah, just a lot of, like, it's basically all answered in story why people aren't there, so that's why I didn't think I would end up asking that as a question. But yeah, the kind of characters we got, we start here with Taylor, Rachel, Brian, Aisha, Saba, and Lily from the Undersiders. And then we've got Cozen, Rifle, and Getaway from the Red Hands. We don't get that much characterization of Getaway. The only thing is that when the breed bugs come out, then he stiffens up, closes his mouth really firm, and kind of puts his hands near his butt. But also, Taylor's like, he doesn't have anything covering his nose, though. Just great to think of the breed bugs. Really, regardless of how they get inside you, fucking breed bugs. Yeah, so yeah, Getaway, Rifle gets minor characterization. He kind of he's like more noble, like more naive to the like horrors of the parahuman world, but more noble in a way than the others, in the way that he's like, we need to do something about this guy who's maybe still alive. Like, not that I think that they should have done something differently than what they did, but and the guy wasn't even alive, but you know, he's just like, we can't just leave him there, even though he's a like a thief villain. He's seems to have a heart of gold. Cozen seems a little jealous of Taylor, but on the other hand, Taylor's also like constantly acting like a weirdo and also being jealous of Cozen, regardless of perhaps however she thinks she's playing it cool. Getting back to the core group, we'll go through. Flechette, or sorry, Foil, Perian and Foil are both pretty freaked out. Foil's keeping it together, and we never get any indication that there's something wrong with her, but Perian is not really keeping it. She's not loving it. Well, I'll tell you that much. She didn't have a good time fighting the Slaughterhouse 9 the first time. So it does make a lot of sense. Gru, keeping it together pretty dang well. He's a little more quiet than usual, but he's in it to win it. He's keeping it together more than Golem, for example. Rachel, the least affected of the bunch. She is only slightly affected by the nightmare that is in front of her. Did I miss anyone? Aisha. I almost missed Aisha. Typical. She is cracking jokes and stuff, as she does when things get tense. And she is, obviously they mention it, and it is more of a powers thing, but she's clearly better with her powers, but it allows her to do bits while still mostly invisible. She can, let only her voice seep through to people's perception. Which is very cool. And I almost feel like the nuance in her power not only indicates, aging, but, actually changing as a person. Whereas if she hadn't changed, I think her power would not be improved. You can change and have your power not change, but if your power changes, it pretty much indicates that, either... I mean, it's supposed to indicate that you've used it a lot, but narratively, it almost always indicates that you've had some character shift internally. So that is how I take that she's sort of more mature. She's taken on this responsibility of, caring for these various kids that are Alec's siblings, and she's, gone through a lot of different situations, probably, that she had never been in. And in a direct powers sense, she probably needs to use her power to affect change in the group and so forth. Wrangle the terrible children. What else? Characters. So I talked about all the initial group who show up. Except Taylor, who I'll talk about later, because she's Taylor. The next group that we see is Chevalier, Exalt, and then unnamed other Protectorate capes. But, Chevalier comes in before Rebel, I think. Chevalier is... on board with Taylor's plans. She's been working to... she's got a really tight working relationship with Defiant that we'll see in the next chapter, but she's been working to build that sort of relationship with Chevalier also in the last year and a half. So, I think that has paid off for her quite a bit. He agrees to her plans to seek out Jack, etc., and deploy all these forces everywhere. So, let's see, we've got Chevalier. Exalt doesn't have any lines. He's just here. He's a face of someone we've seen before. And then we see the Revel come on the comms, as well as in a bit Tattletale. Revel is Taylor's direct boss. Obviously Tecton's the leader of her team, but Revel is the protectorate member in charge of their wards team. So she is, in the parlance of Arrested Development, Mr. Manager. And they seem to have a pretty good working relationship. She seems to trust Taylor. She does get minorly quippy at one point when she's like, well, you don't seem to be moving now. And she's like, well, that's because of the tripwires. But I think the scene is kind of, it's like comedic. It's confusing on first read, very comedic on second read, to me at least, of Revel trying to get them to kill Nice Guy, and it just completely failing. Tattletale, once she's on the comms, she's just your classic Tattletale over the earpiece. Like, I mean, like, for all of these characters, it's like kind of almost goes without saying, unless I bring it up for some reason, I think that their characterization in these little moments, the moment to moment, are really great. Then the wards arrive. You've got the ones who don't come over and talk to them: Tecton, Grace, Wanton, and Cuff. They're all in for this. As we recall, Annex died, but the entire rest of the team is still together, and they are fully invested in the Kill All the Slaughterhouse 9 project. And then, what do we got? So, you know, we don't get any more than they're here from that group, but they all meet up with Chevalier while Golem is going with Taylor to the center of the spiral. And so Golem, I guess, well, Nice Guy, hard to tell what his actual personality is at all. He only has a couple lines with Taylor not being able to like read anything into. The mysterious screaming under the sheet. Who knows? That could be anything. It's probably a recording. I lied. Oh, I guess Jack is basically in this chapter. Jack is like the most gleeful Jack we've ever seen. He's like at peak. This is like one of his top moments, almost, because he just like this is the grand game. Like, this makes the Brockton Bay experiment testing game seem like chump change. So yeah, they're gonna go out and do as much destruction as they can. Jack came up with a good and surprising plan and threat of the idea that he wasn't going to attack. He's just going to let them all loose. Of course, he is attacking a bunch of cities in the 5 days also, but yeah, it's unclear. We've seen from the past that Jack does not keep to his word. There's like the idea that he would disband them is not like good for people, but like he might not even do it, like you just can't really take anything he's saying at face value. Obviously, we get a little moment of Bonesaw giggling off camera, saying like, "Oh, thank you, Jack." Blah, 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 blah. She's still using a control switch on herself to act like Young Bonesaw, which is her new rapper name, Young Bonesaw. It's like, but weren't you already a young person, Bonesaw? Yeah, but now I'm Young Bonesaw. Anyway. Then anyone else? Does anyone else get in on these conversations? I think that might be it. Other than Golem and Taylor? Yeah. Even if there's somebody else They did not make enough of an impression on me. So yes, Golem has a totally different ideology than Taylor of how to deal with this, but also is correct that his role is different and that they don't all need to be doing the same thing, because he can't actually add anything in the way that Taylor's adding stuff here. So he is mourner of the dead. He acknowledges that Jack would have probably just killed people regardless, but he's like not willing to avoid the blame for these deaths. So he's making sure that he takes responsibility. So that's Golem. He's like he's got the like an implacable heroism to him in a different way than any of the others. He is like completely his own brand of character as far as the way that he deals with Cape stuff in this. I can't really think of another character who either their stated or their internal like way of thinking about these situations is that close to him. Like, I guess some of the other heroes probably from Ward have like a reasonably close, like, yeah, I can think of at least one Ward character, but I can't really think of any other Worm character who has a similar view of things. And when we get to see from Golem's perspective at the end of this arc, spoilers, he is like a really good POV character. He's like really interesting, and like we'll obviously talk about it more then, but it'll be easier to express my thoughts about it when I'm pinging those thoughts off of Victoria's thoughts. So we'll chat about it as we do about the interludes. But this is a strong moment for Golem, a strong start to this sort of campaign they're about to wage over several days. Taylor, I think it's really interesting too, like the way after her conversation with Golem, she questions herself. I know I kind of read a lot during the time they were talking to each other, and I even had to stop myself from just reading the whole conversation because it's like really, really good dialogue between them, I think. And the way that she's thinking about it, even the way that the sentences are paced, like, it's not that I don't care, I thought, but, and then that's the end of that line, and the I thought is not italicized, but the rest of that all is. And then she, on another individual line just for the two words, says, but what? And then that's when, in normal text, she thinks, I couldn't articulate my thoughts. And the truth is, they need people like Taylor to counter people like Jack. People who can be as, like, hands-off, cold-hearted, not worry in the moment about these past horrible atrocities. I think I've used that word a lot, but I do think that it's hard to describe these scenes that we're going to see without using such language. Heinous acts have been committed. But yeah, it just doesn't wear away at Taylor in the same way it wears down other people. Because, she's very single-minded. She's got that compartmentalized brain for herself. I should have put that in the themes. Compartmentalization. Definite theme. Because it's like, Golem is like anti-compartmentalization. He's like, I will not compartmentalize this. even though that's your main strategy for dealing with things, Taylor. So that's an interesting contrast. Anyway, for powers, knowledge, and world building, the characters are brought up to speed with what we already know. They're able to use their heads to think of, like, how many people are probably in the Slaughterhouse 9 now, that it's just under 300. They are able to determine that there's like 9 of each of them. Taylor's able to match most of the things that happened to specific members of the Slaughterhouse 9, even down to like specific imagery with Crimson and Winter. They talk about how they have their like romantic imagery, even though like they're using the Red String of Fate stuff from Japan and neither of them are Japanese. It still fits the way they think about the world. And, you know, those memories that were implanted in them, a lot of them are the wrong stuff. So they could have gotten the idea from somebody else, frankly. But yeah, because of the fact that they were crossing straight over a spiral, they actually don't see the majority of different things. So we get told about a bunch of different weird, awful things, but we really don't know the full extent of it. And we haven't even heard the names of like tons of the Slaughterhouse 9 members that there are going to be. So a lot of their names will like give away what the power does in a way. Like Screamer, I think, I mean, it could be anything, but to me that does indicate it points in the direction of what it is, like a sound-based voice power. Although I think it's still very creative. That's another thing. Like, this is just an excuse for Wildbow to be able to write like 15 new parahumans as enemies that will show up and surprise us. And Taylor can be like, oh, it's such and such. Oh no, Night Hag showed up. And for them to already like know how to counter the powers, but like the different combinations of enemies, and I don't know, the dynamics get crazy in this arc because like every fight is like a big, like, I'm trying to think, the next fight is going to be like a 5 versus 10 fight basically, of all sorts of power mixes, and then like later ones they'll be, oh, I don't even want, I can't get into it too much. I'll just spill all the secrets of this arc right now if I do, but yeah, everything is opened up as far as like they can throw out, you know, on the hero side, they've got all these cool Protectorate and Tonda capes that we like kind of know about, but we haven't get to see them do their thing. And we get to see Crucible fight later, and that's fun because Crucible's power is pretty cool. Oh, and since this is the world building section, I guess I think that like Golem makes a really good point about like, even though this was like some tiny town where hardly anybody like lived, like how many people in the world is this gonna like change their lives when these people have been killed and so forth. Yeah, we're just sort of like prepped for what may come in the coming chapters by seeing all this awfulness from the get-go. Kind of think I'm at the point where I may be talking myself in circles, so I'll go to the audience participation question, which for this was, 26.1, make up a new Slaughterhouse 9 member to wreak havoc on Killington. Non-listener, but Discord person, Halloween, said they should put Helen from Twig in the Slaughterhouse 9. She would have fun. I also like to imagine the twee historical woman, an other is like a spirit or whatever. I'm sure I'm getting that wrong, but it's a supernatural Wildbow setting. No, Twig isn't. Well, I'm just gonna assume that other kind of means the same thing in the Twig setting as it does in the Packed Pale setting. So yes, this character is described as the twee historical woman other in Twig. During that one scene, is secretly a Helen cameo, even though she's not. Maybe that's a typo. Maybe it's an other that was in Packed or Pale, and that's what Halloween meant. But was referring back to saying that that character and Helen are the same character, or at least close enough to be fun. A fun thing to say for yourself, you know. Headcanons can be fun. Unfortunately, that is the only answer that we got from Halloween. But I would like to say, in honor of that one episode of Freakazoid about Candlejack. Oh no, I said Candlejack. I'm fucked. That episode of Freakazoid where they're telling ghost stories around the fire, and one of the children says, "The scariest thing in the world would be if all the air turned to wood." And so I want there to be a parahuman who can transmute air into wood at a short-ranged distance. So, yes. Oh no, what's that big pile of wood over there? Oh, it's just air to wood, man. Wonder if there would actually be like a good fitting mythical name, like of a weird mythical creature or godlike figure from some culture that fits the horrifying air to wood. Who knows? Well, I'm nearly at the end, and I want to do the speed draw again. And it's a little longer than the outro song, so I'm gonna start it now. So the question for 26.2 is Taylor directly compares herself to Defiant in this chapter. Are there any characters that you think are even more similar to her than he is? Boom. Dunsky. And I'm going to start the outro music. So, for this week, following Arc 26 Sting, the music used in this episode was Dark Ambient Music, Asylum 01 by CO.AG Music, or maybe it's CO.AG, but it's CO.AG Music. I used them a lot earlier on in the stream. I just kept having trouble coming up with sample songs for what I was looking for Scarlet, so I ran out of time, and I really do think that this is a pretty fitting music track for this awful arc where these dark deeds happen. All the links, including the song link, can be found in the description of the stream. The basic links can be found in the channel description, like our Discord server link. The author of the work being discussed can be supported on Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow. The full text of the work is available for free online at parahumans.wordpress.com. There's also a fan-made audiobook of the entire work at audioworm.rain-online.org. Yeah. I'm gonna let this play the outro. But overall, goodbye, and I will see you on the next stream.